If you are a Christian woman and you have something that you, for a long time, have been wanting to make happen or change, or a habit that you would love to develop in place of something you would love to get rid of, it's not that you're lazy and it's not that you are not disciplined. It's that you lack a system that actually enables you to create the change that you are wanting to make. I learned about this when I was in coaching school, and I've seen this and heard of it from many different angles. And when I have finally applied this system to my life that I'm going to be sharing with you guys, it changed everything. It definitely takes work, but I now have the confidence, and I hope that you will soon have the confidence as well to be able to say, this is what I want to make happen, and then to go on and actually make it happen. Not perfectly, just consistently, right? We would rather be able to create the change, even if it isn't perfect, than to be floundering in the mess that we've been stuck in for who knows how long, but even though it looks perfect, right? So if you want help with this, and this is like already something that you're like, I don't even know what you're going to say, but I want I want to hear it, then grab the On Purpose planner in the description below, which is just, this whole video is basically leads into that to help set you up to apply that system properly. Totally free in the description below. So the system I'm going to talk about is why you need to have a 12-week system, 90 days, 3 months. You can use whichever one of those, but it's the same amount of time. But before I talk about that, I want to just talk about why 1 year doesn't work. So we're kind of geared in our society to see goals in the sense of 1 year, right? So whatever we want to make happen, it's as we're getting towards the end of the year, it's almost like, well, I can't start until next year. And so then I'll just like put my goals on hold, or whatever change we're wanting to create. We're going to put that on hold until the next year when we could give a really big push, which is kind of crazy that we're going to go from like New Year's resolutions where we have not been doing the thing at all. And then all of a sudden we're expecting ourselves to just like be able to give this really big push and make it happen every day for that whole year, right? It's typically doesn't work. Or on the other hand, if we set a 1-year goal and we're looking at the end of the year, that is way too much time to delay and to flounder and to kind of be like, oh, I've got time, or after spring, after summer, after the kids are in school, after whatever it is, then I'll make that thing happen. And so 1 year is way too much time to just delay. And the other thing is, like, I do really enjoy 1 month goals. And I have talked about that on this channel, but it also, a 1 month goal is sort of like, that's a good time frame to kind of give a push to something. But if there's something that you are wanting to do that actually creates lasting change, or where it's something that you know you're going to have to give a certain, like a higher level of effort to something, 1 month it's not enough. Well, I'll talk about this more, but it's not enough to, it's enough time to give a really big push, but it's not enough time to catch the dips. So what do I mean by the dips? When we are creating change, we go through a lot of excitement at the beginning. And then usually around week 5, there's the self-sabotage that sets in. And so sometimes, and the self-sabotage can set in because the success that we are creating is actually working, that we get so freaked out that we sabotage. And so you need a system, which the 12-week system, 90 days, 3 months, it's enough time to actually create the habit, the lasting habit change that you want. It's enough time for you to transform as a person, to think differently. Like, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to think differently and then behave differently. You actually have to say, okay, I'm adding in this. And the Bible talks about, like, if you want to transform your life, not just if you want to, but if you want to renew your mind, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, which in other words is, if you want to change, you change how you're thinking, and the rest follows. Everything else in life follows. And so it's not, I mean, I wish we could just say, I'm going to think differently about this situation, and then actions just follow. You have to actually apply that, and you need enough time to apply that, and to look at the data, and to learn from yourself, and to look at what worked and what didn't work. And there's a lot of ups and downs, right? So again, when you're looking at, when you give yourself the time to create change over 12 weeks, where you are consistently saying, I'm going to stick with this one goal, this one habit change, this one transformation, or this one thing that I'm wanting to add in, you're going to over a 12-week period, it's enough time for you to reach for something really big, but also to learn from the data, to have those really rough weeks or the backwards weeks or the self-sabotage weeks, but also like to make the momentum and become the person who is actually capable of achieving and carrying the thing that you're wanting to change. And so if you are a Christian woman and you have something on your heart that you're really wanting to do for God, that has, maybe it's something that it's brand new, you just had an idea and you'd love to act on it, or maybe it's something that you have been wanting to make happen for the last 20 years, it's just not happening, then grab the On Purpose planner in the description below. Okay, it's where we take a 12-week chunk of time, and you can do any time frame that you want, but I highly encourage looking at a 12-week chunk of time. And it's not just about saying, how do I just give this massive push? You want to actually like choose the time frame, choose the goal, look at your schedule, and you plan out that goal. You're looking at your schedule and you're making sure that both fit, right? It's not just about saying, I'm going to give 3 hours, and then you look at your schedule and you're like, well, that doesn't work, so I guess I just can't make it happen. It's how do we make the things and create the change we want to make in the time that we have. And there might be a little bit of like pushing and pulling, but there's this wiggle room that we're going to figure out on paper so that you can actually successfully do the thing that you are wanting to do and to create the change you're wanting to create, because it is within your reach. So I want to talk about just one of the things, it's one thing to have a system, right? And I think sometimes we can just keep on looking or get stuck always looking for, if I just had the right system, then it would finally work. Or if I just heard that right talk, or if I just had that right whatever, thinking that we're just kind of like waiting for God to make the perfect thing come across our path so that we can finally take the action that we want to take. But I want to talk about the belief that I had that actually kept me stuck from being able to create change. So which this is the thing that comes up typically in around week 5, when you are following through with the 12-week system, 90 days, 3 months, again, same amount of time, just call it what you want it. But a huge belief, and I'm going to share this because you are going to have your own beliefs that come up for you. And so it's a belief of something like it's like a rule of life that we live by that we don't even necessarily know we're living by it. But I had this belief that because I have been trying to figure out goals and goal setting and like how to actually make this happen for, I would say, pretty much my whole adult life, because I had things I wanted to make happen. And so what would end up happening was I was just always stuck doing the obvious thing or the loud thing instead of doing the right thing. And so I had to like actually learn how to reach my goals. But the thing that the belief that would stop me from that is that I believed that if God called me to something, or if there was something on my heart to make happen, and I actually gained the skill and was able to make it happen, then I would receive the glory and not him. And then I couldn't point back to him and say that this was all for him or that he made it happen. So I actually like believed or was stuck being kind of not stupid, but just kind of like dumb through the process of whatever was that I was working on. And that created a massive dilemma in my life because I was always trying to work towards something, but then would always kind of stay conveniently like scattered and chaotic, because it wasn't until I realized like, oh, I actually feel like I'm being a bad Christian if I get good at this, because then I'm thinking like the best stories are the stories where God uses the one who's totally ill-equipped and totally doesn't know what they're doing. And like, that's a really big God story versus the one where you actually put in the work and you learn what you need to learn and you do what you need to do. And then he, I guess I like the miracle story. But again, I believe that the miracle stories are the ones that really glorify God. Whereas the slow, the steady, the ones where just God gives us wisdom and how to walk out what it is that we're called to walk out, then like that doesn't feel glamorous and big and like this huge God story. And I wanted a God story. And so then it was like, well, if I want that, and I believe that God gets the most glory from this really big miraculous God story, my like backwards solution that I had without even realizing I had it was that I'll just be scattered and chaotic and not really good at if I don't get really good at this, then there that leaves a lot of room for God to come in and do this miracle. So what happens then is that when I actually would go and create a 12-week goal, like this is what's going to happen for you is that when you create a 12-week goal, when it's something that you've been wanting to make happen and as of yet have not been able to do, if that is you, grab the On Purpose planner in the description below. But what happens is that you create that 12-week goal, you map it out, and then when you start working towards it, if you actually succeed, and it doesn't take a whole lot to succeed, all you need are a few key steps, a few key changes, not a whole ton of effort. Just find those key things that make the difference. And you're instead of doing the loud things or the obvious or the obvious things in the moment, you're actually starting to do the right things that get you where you want to go. That causes us to freak out because that pulls on these beliefs that we have. And so for me, actually making movement in the right direction in the past would pull on this belief that I had that if I get good at this, which it's like I wanted to, and I knew like I need to actually gain skill in some areas in order to follow this thing through. But if I do that, then it's me making this happen and it's not God. And so then that's where the self-sabotage comes in, because I actually had to identify that fear, that belief, and work through that and trust God with like, I think, just instead of saying, okay, instead of me being dumb so that you have a big God story, I'm actually going to give myself the permission to get really good at this. And I'm going to give that to him. And that is still a great and grand story, even almost more so because it's us stepping in and owning our part and saying, like we're using our mind, we're loving God with our heart, our soul, our mind, everything that we are and everything that we have. We are saying, I'm going to engage myself with your story, with who you are, Jesus, and what you're about. I'm engaging myself. And then I'm engaging my mind. I'm engaging my emotions. I'm engaging my choices. I'm engaging my resources, my time, my energy, my money. And I'm seeing the problems in the world. And I'm using my creativity. I'm asking you for wisdom. I'm watching the wisdom throughout the Bible as I read it. And I'm paying attention to how God responds to things, to how people respond to things, to how like what is wisdom over time with the different relationships that you have, with the things you've learned through in life. And then you're paying attention to what has God shown you? What are the things you naturally see? What are the things you're good at? Like that's what you're called to with. And so it's like when all this comes together, that is really how a natural, like a Christian calling develops. We had a quick pause there. I don't remember exactly where I was. But my toddler, I don't know if I can keep calling him a toddler, but my 4-year-old needed some help. Okay. So yeah, I think, this really just all starts with the attitude of I think I'm thinking about this just from the angle of sometimes we feel wrong to set a goal because there's something in us that it's like, well, if this is from God, if he wants me to make this happen, if this is a good thing, it should just naturally happen. And that is, I understand that thinking. I've had that thinking and I've had to work through that thinking because that's the kind of thing that causes us to say, like, Jesus, I'm willing, but I need to know this is you like every step of the way. But what happens, like that sounds good and it sounds like faith, but it makes us ill-equipped. We're not skilled. We have no wisdom. We have no understanding of actually how to do the work, big or small, that God has called us to. And so then we're really like not the person for the job because we keep having this attitude of if God is going to make this happen, then I don't need to do a thing when you do, right? Like I think of Israel in the wilderness when they were building the tabernacle. God gave them instruction, but they had to do the work. Like he didn't say, okay, I need you to wake up today and then you're going to do this, this, and this is when you're going to stop. And this, like, he doesn't do that. He gives us the work, and then it's our job to go and do the work. And so we get to come with our creativity. Yeah. Um, he normally gets a snack while I'm doing this. So yeah. So we get to come with our creativity, with our unique perspective that is absolutely being changed and transformed by God. But we get to be who we are in the story, and we get to play our part with who we are, and we get changed by him, right? It's not like we're coming and just saying, well, you know what, I'm a mess, but this is who I am. So if people have an issue with it, who cares, right? That's not the right attitude. And so there's this, we come with who we are, but we're letting the Holy Spirit change and transform us through this whole process as well. And so when you are, if you have something that you want to see happen, my encouragement to you is just to do your part to make that happen, to work through the beliefs, the mindsets, the fears that are keeping you stuck, because it's one thing to have a system, right? Like I love systems. I love goal planning. I don't really love the process of it, just because anytime you're working towards something new, it's like, ugh, is this work? It doesn't come naturally. And until you stick with it long enough, and it does come naturally and it is enjoyable. But like, that is a really fun process. The problem is that there's these things that cause us to self-sabotage, and those things need to be dealt with, because if you are, as a Christian, it's not just working towards a goal and having some fears. It's that these are things that we get stuck in the places where we have less than ideal or like totally wrong beliefs about the character of who God is. And that those things will come to the surface. When you read Deuteronomy 8, he talks about how I brought you into the wilderness to train you as a father who loves his child, to teach you and to train you. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to get him some fries and then I'll try to remember my thought. Okay, he's got a snack. He's happy. Okay, so I was just saying how with Israel, being in the wilderness, but Deuteronomy 8, God is talking about how he led them into the wilderness to test them and train them, to show what's in their heart, like to actually bring that to the surface. And so when we're walking with God in unknown places, whether it's something that we've chosen to follow through on something, or a tragedy strikes and we're thrown into that wilderness place, that process brings what is in our heart to the surface. Because we are, I mean, like, we should all know this, we're not born with a right idea of who God is or of his character. And so it takes time and experiences for that to come to the surface, but then you actually have to deal with that. And so the process of setting a goal, like when I think of my desire to help Christian women follow through, like to do their part, to take seriously what God has put on their heart to do. Again, if you have something, you want to act on it, big or small. Okay. Don't think, oh, it's not that big of a deal, so I don't need a planner for that. Just download and jump in. Even if it's a small thing, you're going to love the transformation. The On Purpose Planner in the description below. But when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about, it's not just, it's like the goal, setting a goal is the container, right? Setting a goal, a time frame, actually doing the steps, that is the container that facilitates incredible transformation in your walk with Jesus. And that is so powerful and so valuable. And so it's not that the goal is just to be helpful to people, right? Like, it's enough if we, in our own walk with God, get that transformation. But it is also that transformation and that journey plays a huge role in what he's called you to and what he's preparing you for and what he's equipped you for. And so I would just say, like, commit to the journey, set a goal, plan it out, learn from the data, learn from your mistakes, keep on sticking with it, and really be genuine and honest with what is going up in what is coming up in your heart, what is going on behind the scenes, because that's where God sees, that's where he works, and it's behind the scenes that our actions come from. So whatever is in our heart, that's what your actions will come out of that place. So like for me, where I felt like, well, if I get good at this, I won't have a God story. And that kept me taking action that was like the opposite of what I wanted to. Whereas when I realized like I can actually be really good at this and God can still glorify his name through my story, then I actually get to get good at this. And I get to say like, this is what I need to work on. And this is what I'm going to do. And this is like what has to happen. And the whole time I'm trusting him to direct my steps, but I'm trusting him that I get to be skilled and he can glorify his name through me being as good as I can, like getting as good as I can possibly get at everything that is on my heart to do, to play my part in his family. Okay. That is all that I wanted to share with you today. Let me know if this was helpful. Let me know what is it that you want to make happen? Like what's on your heart? Maybe it's a small or big change that you would love to create in your home or in your family culture, or maybe it's that you are wanting to start a ministry or move overseas and be a missionary or write a book or do something that is just so like, can I actually do this? So whatever it is, let me know. I'd love to hear. And lastly, remember to read the Bible, get lost in the story of God, and play your part. And I will talk to you soon.